Hello everyone, Kurt over here and welcome back to another episode from Home Fighter Labs. Today we meet the counter remedy to the Sixth Master. And we look at it from, once again, it is very simple. However, as always, simple does not mean easy. And we're going to look at here from the multiple directions right here because remember, the Sixth Master cover, in my opinion, is not just above. It's dealing and contending with everything from out. So they could be left, right, up, down, it doesn't matter. This type of covering, and you see that later on with later master plays, that lower covering mechanism. But the Sixth Master, I think, is the introduction to that. In this right here, we're going to see how that Sixth Master dagger play, we counter it if we are coming in with that committed shot. What this means to me is that there's other factors that come into play when someone is striking in this way. And we're going to see, once again, how a first master cover, once again, might be the thing that we consider here as we're setting this up. It tells me that there's a Visimento at play and that there is always sneaky nastiness that comes down to this, as Fiore would have say, because once again, every dirty, nasty trick to preserve one's life. And we're going to look at that. So with that being the case here, let's get into it.
Okay, this week we're going to be talking about the remedy to the Sixth Master dagger. And it is very, very simple. And all that it is that as soon as I've come into here, so if I'm the one coming in this, I stab in here, all I'm going to do is I'm going to push him and keep going with this. It is very, very, very simple right here when it comes down to what you're doing off of this. Because at the end of the day, all I'm trying to do here is he is going to try to move up and stop a shot as much as possible. The thing that's very interesting about this to me is that this also comes into a play where we talk about within the first master, where I can, if I know that he is going to do this, so say this person's pulled out a dagger right here. That's the part that makes this interesting, right? Then I can use the knowledge that I know that he's probably going to try to force it as fast as possible to try to gain access to this. Another case in point, just drop the dagger for a second here. A play from first master daggers, I'm coming in here, as soon as I set up to cover, we put my own hand up here and he grabs my left wrist. I come up like this with my left hand. Why? Because he's ready for it. So I'm going to displace him and come off with it. Okay? So that right there, one more time. So if I come up here, as far as this goes, up here and grab into this. If he grabs onto my wrist, grab onto the wrist here and pull him back down here. It's very simple. I'm just going to shorten that portion. The Sixth Master dagger, in this case, is in my opinion, a similar mindset to this right here. Because ultimately, if I know that this guy right here, if I know I can go like this, maybe I can pull him up like that. Right? Or maybe I know he's down that, and maybe I know that I'm wearing a coat hardy or an arming coat that's covering up my van bracers. So when I come in, I know that I can hit this as hard as I want here because he's going to think, yes, I can hurt him. Right? Maybe I know something he doesn't know about what I'm wearing. Regardless, it pops up here, in, push, and coming around this way. If the person, if I came off the side right here, off the side right here, off to this cover, right? This is where we have to get creative with this. And remember, the Sixth Master cover works for any of these positions right here. So this is where, again, if we know our dagger remedies, we might actually find a third master play in this, not by grabbing in, there's no risk to take, but I may be able to use the same cross mechanism right here to set up a point to get into a thrust. So by coming into this right here, so the third master cover, just put the dagger over for a second here. Third master cover is coming here when I come over top and I grab the dagger and I have his wrist. But in this case right here, he's using the dagger, not his forearm. So if I do this right here, I'm not going to take the dagger out of my hand. And if anything else, this is really going to suck for me. But what I can do is, off the revezzo, there's an elbow right here. So I can use the same mechanism to go into a different direction here. The point is, if you can perform Sixth Master cover in all directions, then that means you can also push the elbow in all directions. If I come low, here, grab and turn, pull up. If I do a revezzo this from a low line this way, pull and push and pull up. Surprisingly, some of these movements right here are actually the same kind of counters you see later on with sword against dagger, which I think is not surprising that they show it here because it does go in later on when it comes into those plays. So again, the surprising thing of this right here is that it can come in any direction right here, and that we essentially can use that pushing the elbow in any direction is possible. Remember, it's not a one and done situation right here. It could be many other things here. Maybe I come across into this right here. I grab his arm, he pushes back into me. And I can work in and flow off of that. The point being is I can shift his body, right? So that's the big thing about this. Again, one more time here. I pop into this, shot comes in, push the elbow. Now, a big thing about this right here, and this comes from a conversation I had with Greg Maley, is that you can push up the arm. So again, if he's going to resist this, resist me, don't let me push you. That's harder. That's all my neck. So if I really want to do anything right here, if he resists, push him up and over. Pushing him up and over gets underneath the body right here. In that case, you're kind of attacking the lower spine area right here in your balance portion right here. You're affecting the senyo that's beneath you. Same thing right here. Cross over this way. If I come across and just push the elbow, one, this is very weak for me. So if I try to push him, I've got a cross configuration, plus I got this dagger right here in my face. So instead, over, push, oh, I missed there. Over, push up. Mind you, not a full kinetic situation. We're talking about the technique within the manuscript right here. So, and then from the low position, boom. This might be the opposite. So instead of trying to push up with this, because all of his weight's on top of this, I try pulling up. It's gonna be hard here because he just put his weight down into my one arm. So instead, I push over and step. Use my body with this. The point is, again, if you see the elbow, push the elbow, clear the line, and go right back in with the shot. And that right there is the remedy which comes down to this. It's some of the other tactical considerations that we think about when it comes down to Sixth Master Dagger.
So you can see with the video here how, once again, the application of push the elbow is a factor that allows us to deal with this. Now, one of the things, again, like I've also shown in the video, is that essentially this might be someone that's pushing up. Of course, like you've got them to respond to this. Something that I had actually talked about in a class I ran for a while is like, you don't know the difference. Like, we can talk about it as we're looking at this right here, like, yes, let's take a look here. You can't tell the difference between this and this. You don't know that when you're in a heightened stress. So by coming like this right here and maybe pulling my shot and making you overextend into Sixth Master, that might be something that's at play here. And the reason why I say that is because, interestingly enough, if you look at the image from this, the cuff is very low, which means, and I don't see any armor there. Again, that doesn't mean necessarily that is made, that we're talking that the person there is never wearing armor. But it is saying that because Sixth Master works in and out of armor, that means also the person that's performing the remedy is also in and out of armor. And that's a very important piece to come about this. So please understand that when I talk about in and out of armor and also these considerations, I find it is beneficial to look at it from the possibility of, like, if I'm in armor, of course, hit right here, nothing's going to happen right here. It's not going to hurt me. It's not going to be nearly as effective. But what happens if I'm not? Am I really going to want to slam my arm down with this? What type of trickery is that? Interesting enough, like I said before about the first master cover, where we talk about the play where I put my hand out there with the left hand, you grab it, I can turn and move into different directions. I think this is also a revisiting of that concept, where, once again, misdirection is what I'm using for you to set up a covering action that is not beneficial for you in any way, shape, or form, because I'm basically hiding behind the blow. My first shot comes in, it covers my intention. I mean, even just with the camera right there, you can kind of tell. If I come up like this to somebody, can you see what's happening with the other hand? Can you see if it was high or low? I mean, for this case right here, you probably see my hand a little bit off camera, but if I'm just kind of, if I'm like this, where's my hand? Considerations when they come down to that. We don't necessarily know. And that's a part about this right here that I wonder if that is a factor in play. Pushing the elbow, and again, like I said before, I gave a shout out to Greg Maley, so thank you very, very much so about being able to, that the concept of like pushing up and over. That's a huge part about this, is that sometimes pushing up on somebody is a huge part, rather than going, okay, I'm going to push across this way, because they may be bigger and stronger. Now that may be effective for them, maybe. However, having their weight and everything topple over them, especially if they're coming up with this, that means they're going to come back into the direction of their parry. And that's a big part about this right here, in my opinion. If I can commit you to go up with this, then it just makes it easier for me to put the dagger where I need to in this type of situation. Interestingly enough, not just this play, but many of the plays that come to this pushing of the elbow that we see, you see it in the sword section as well. As someone comes in with a blow, they shoot a shot right there. And if you push them over their leg, you basically make them trip themselves. If they don't have the mindset to turn, and if they do have the mindset to turn, you can follow them and go into lower wrap kind of considerations. But the idea of pushing them over the lead leg. So in this case right here in the image, the guy's left leg is forward. Pushing them over their left leg, so I'm pushing it over to my right, their left, makes it a lot easier for me to turn them because they're fighting they're fighting themselves spinally, which is it's a lot to contend with there when someone's mashing up this way. So pressing and lifting and all those types of things right there are big considerations when coming down to this. You also saw how the third master comes into play here. I can say within sparring and some of our CIs that we've done here, if someone throws a revezzo, popping in this way right here, they push my, if I throw a revezzo on this right here and they start to push, they go into that sixth master cover, reaching across this way to turn has allowed me to gain access right there. So once again, if they can cover both left and right, then that means to me that you can also counter these things left and right. And we know how to do that because the third master cover was coming down and grabbing the wrist, but the wrist is no longer in play. If I do that right there, I'm just grabbing the dagger and pulling into myself. Instead, reaching across, grabbing the elbow, and then utilizing that rotation thing we know from First Master Dagger to put this in compilation. So even though this is a very simple technique about push the elbow, the implications that we may come to this actually becomes quite complicated. And it also just shows how much the mechanics that you learn consistently along the way reinforce the narrative of what these training things is. The Exiles call about how they call it a holistic system. I love that because the reality is, it is. If you're learning something over here, it's not its own microcosm. This builds onto something else. This goes onto something else. And every one of those stages out there is very, very important to look at and to consider. So please understand that it is very important as we're going through these things that you may find incredible things in there. Remember, it's the flowers of battle. It's not the science of battle. It's the flowers of battle. To me, that's artful. To me, that tells me, put a pedal here, see what happens. As you're working through play, see what happens when it goes to other considerations. All very interesting. But anyway, with that being the case here, I know I got on a bit for this right here, but again, I think this is very important because you see, once again, considerations and lessons from other plays that make this thing very capable and possible to carry on and forward with it all. Please understand that when it comes down to this kind of handling right here, that again, you have to remember that this is somebody right here that is not going to comply with you. So how do you make it so this happens? Maybe by forcing it. Also, remember, if you're not wearing armor, that could really hurt. So those are big considerations to consider right there. And please understand that essentially when it comes down to that, it's a big part of it all. So understand where it flows and rolls. That's important. Okay. With that being the case here, as always, viewers and subscribers, thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. Please leave a comment below. Love what you're all putting out there. What are your thoughts on this right here? Are you making similar connections to other plays in here? Love to hear what's going on with that. That also extends to the viewers that have seen this for the first time. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this as well. Please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Share with a friend. Want to grow it. As always, everybody, that's not possible without viewers like you. I thank you so much for your time and consideration. Don't forget to hit the bell to see when more content drops. And as always, until next time, please stay safe out there. Train well and fight on. I'll see you all soon.